What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How we doing? Happy Wednesday to you. Decided to do a little live action. It's been a little while since I've gone live, but just got back from, well, not just got back, but a couple of weeks ago, went up to the always entertaining and never disappointing city of Nashville for Podcast Movement 2021. Wasn't a giant crowd, well, because of present times, but it was a good time. I got some valuable information. One of the key takeaways that I got was a phenomenal solution to make sure that your podcast has a website. Yeah, I get this question a lot. People say, "Do I need a podcast website for my podcast or a website for my podcast?" Whatever way you want to say it. And the answer to that is an astounding yes. Yeah, and for good reason. You want people to be able to find you, but more importantly, you want people to be able to find your podcast. My friends over at podpage.com have created a phenomenal solution to be able to help you create a podcast website literally in minutes. See, the best part about podcasting and creating podcast content is that all of your podcast content lives on an RSS feed, which stands for really simple syndication. So your podcast is hosted through your podcast host. So Libsyn, Acast, Simplecast, whatever podcast host you choose to utilize, and you upload your podcast episodes there. That's where they live. And then your podcast hosting account is associated with an RSS feed. All that being said, that RSS feed can do a number of different things. The first and most important thing is it helps your podcast get distributed to platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Google Podcasts, etc. But it also allows you to pull all of your podcast data into specific platforms like a podcast website with solutions like podpage.com. I had a chance to play around with Podpage a little bit, and I've got a pending Podpage review that I'm going to do on the Podcast Launch Lab YouTube channel. You may be watching this video right now on YouTube. Maybe you're on LinkedIn. Maybe you're on Facebook. Quick hello to wherever you're tuning in. I do appreciate you taking some time out of your day. There's a lot of things you could be doing right now, and you've chosen to hang out with me for a few minutes to better understand what you don't know that you don't know about a podcast website. So if you're just joining us, feel free to comment wherever you're commenting. I can't do more than one thing or maybe two things at once, but I do see a few smiling faces here in the audience, if you will. So I just wanted to say a quick hello. Let's see. We've got Eric over on LinkedIn. Podcasts suck. They definitely do. If you don't have one, good morning, Eric. Thanks for tuning in. Joshua, what's happening, man? Good morning to you too over on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. I won't see all of the comments on LinkedIn, but I do see, or excuse me, on YouTube, but I do see the comments on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So thanks so much for tuning in. I do appreciate it. And let's get right down to it. So first things first is I was able to get in and play around with podpage.com a little bit, and I immediately fell in love just for the simple fact that all I had to do was sign up, which took 3 nanoseconds to do, and then also take my podcast RSS feed for my podcast, for the Beyond the Story podcast, and type it in, and it pulled all of my podcast data into the Podpage platform to then create my Podpage website, which became my actual website. I hook, line, and sinker immediately. They're not paying me to say that. I spoke with a team member at the one of the meetups, Buzzsprout. My friends over at Buzzsprout were having a meetup one day after the event had ended, and I had a chance to have a pretty meaningful conversation about podcast websites with this individual. And by the time we were done chatting, I was immediately sold on just the fact that I wanted to do a review on the podcastlaunchlab.com YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, you're totally missing out. It's an entire library of free content to help you get you to the finish line on starting a podcast. So if you've been thinking about it and you're a do-it-yourselfer, then pick up a copy of my book, Podcasts Suck. If you don't have one, wherever books are sold, mainly you just go to podcastsuck.com, probably the easiest way. Read the book, do what it says, go to my YouTube channel, and you've got all the information you need in order to start a podcast. So let me show you what the Podpage website actually looks like. And let's see here. Beyond the Story podcast. Here we go. Okay. So check this out. You've got, it's a legit website. And by the way, I did zero designing on this website. All I simply did was take my RSS feed from my podcast host. I'll explain how to do that in a second. When I signed up for Podpage, I'm going to give you a link to sign up for Podpage too. And when I did that, all of my information populated. Now, there was a little bit of customization, and I'm going to show you how the back end works. But as you can see here, name of my podcast, you can go to the actual episode page that has every single podcast episode I've ever recorded, all 101 episodes. The About page on here says a little bit about the podcast. All of my reviews, this is huge. All of my reviews are imported from Apple Podcast. This is huge. People can just read all your reviews right in one place. They don't have to go to Apple iTunes, because if they're a Spotify user, if they're a Google podcast consumer, if they consume podcast elsewhere, you don't want to make them go any other place than exactly where you're at. Once they get to your podcast website, they've got everything they need. They can go and they can subscribe to your list. Now, this took a little bit of customization, but I'm going to show you in a second. Podpage has a lot of integration. So my email provider is ActiveCampaign. I was able to create a form in ActiveCampaign and plug that form directly into my Podpage website, all through the back end dashboard. I'm going to show you how that works in just a minute. But as you can see here, these are all the places, or at least a few of the places. This isn't all of the places you can find my podcast, but I didn't want to put 952 banners. I just wanted the most important. Statistics are currently telling us that about 80% of listenership is going to be coming from Apple Podcast. Secondary would be Spotify. Between 35 and 40% of listenership will be coming from Spotify. And then a close third and fourth would be Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio. Now, a lot of these Apple Podcasts and Spotify are what we call distribution platforms. So these platforms distribute your podcast. And a lot of these other platforms are simply listening platforms. So they're an app. They're an opportunity for you to be able to get in and actually listen to a podcast and consume podcast content through that specific app. And that's what you'll find through Castbox and Deezer. Now, Amazon Music, this is huge, because once your podcast is in Amazon Music, you can simply say, because opening something up and having to press a button is completely barbaric. So all you have to say is, Alexa, play Beyond the Story podcast with Sebastian Rusk. And Alexa will start playing. Same thing works with, if your podcast is in Google Podcasts and you've got Google Home or whatever type of voice recognition contraption in your house, you could simply say, hey, Google, play the Beyond the Story podcast with Sebastian Rusk, and it'll immediately start playing the most recent episode. So welcome to the future, my friends. Also got a contact form here. Put their name, email address. Now, this doesn't go into my email list, but it does if someone's inquiring about the show, wants to be a guest, wants to inquire about conversations that I'm currently having on the podcast. They can do that through contacting me here. The purpose of this form is for people to join the mailing list. So this is a specific Beyond the Story mailing list where I'll send new episodes, new podcast episodes, anything relevant or pertaining to the show, things I'm doing with the show, or my guests on there is the reason that people would want to join my list. But I want to strongly encourage the power of the list. He or she or them who own the list wins. Why? Because, well, you're able to capture a piece of contact information. Marketing a podcast and connecting with your audience is not the easiest task when you've got a podcast. So you want to make sure you've got an email list that allows you to be able to connect with these people consistently and not just depend on social channels, not just depend on them connecting with you on Facebook or on Instagram, but this gives you an actual home for your podcast website on here. Best part about podpage.com, doesn't cost you $1 to be able to subscribe. I'm going to go back to me for just a second here and chat with you. Good morning. A few other people have been joining us on here. What's happening? Thanks so much for joining us. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Are you hearing this right now? You've got the opportunity to be able to talk about whatever you want pertaining to your business, your brand, or what you're passionate about in real time. You don't have to ask anybody for permission. You can go live and you're able to reach thousands of people, and it doesn't cost you a nickel to be able to do. And we're doing it in multiple different platforms. It allows me to be in multiple different places at one specific time and be able to get a specific message across. This will kind of be the precursor of the Podcast Launch Lab YouTube video that I do for Podpage that I want to be able to show you guys. So in fact, in the meantime, here is a URL that I'm dropping in the comments where you can go check out podpage.com. That was going to, whoops, that one goes to you. That one's going on YouTube. Let me go drop a link here on Facebook, and I can find it on LinkedIn. It's tough to find your live stream in other places other than Facebook because LinkedIn does say that Sebastian is live on LinkedIn, but tracking down that video while I'm doing a live video is not the easiest task in town, but I figured it out here. So if you're on LinkedIn, there's a link to be able to check out podpage.com. It's completely free. This isn't a sales pitch. All I'm doing is simply sharing with you that I found a great solution that I'm using for my own website. We do teach it to the students here at the podcastlaunchlab.com. Shameless plug. If you're looking to start a podcast, we do have a proven podcast launch solution to take you from idea to iTunes in 90 days or less. You get to work with me one-on-one for a couple of months, and we get you to the finish line in 90 days or less with a fully launched podcast show. So more information on how to get in touch with me available on the link in my bio on Facebook, and also on YouTube, and also on my About section on LinkedIn. Love to have a conversation with you about what it looks like to start a podcast for your brand and increase sales, develop more relationships, create a bridge builder for your business. That's the key component. If you're trying to get in front of somebody and have a conversation with them, asking them to schedule a call and talk about how you can help each other may not be the most conducive use of both of your times, but saying, hey, I'd love to tell your story or have a productive conversation about what you do on my podcast, you'll find people are more inclined to say yes to that than they are to an actual just call. These days, we're living in a let's schedule a call economy. So be very intentional about why you actually want to schedule a call. That's always my first question when people say, let's schedule a call. I always say, for what? And if they've got a valid reason to, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but let's make sure we're not wasting each other's time. So let me go back over here and share my screen again. Let me show you the dashboard of Podpage. Super cool. So I showed you what the website actually looks like. This is the actual backend dashboard. So there's a lot here, and I'm going to go and do my best to unpack how the back end of this works. So first of all, when you log into your Podpage backend, you're going to be able to choose a number of things. I started with my website. So I went to the page designer, and the layout, what's called the UI, the user interface. Very, very easy to use, extremely well laid out, that I believe even if a novice just getting started with something not that technically inclined can sign up for Podpage and literally be walked through every step of the equation. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here, they got a nifty chat feature that allows you to send a message. You can also find relevant articles that may have already been answered pertaining to what you want to know about what you're trying to resolve with setting up your pod page. I love that. You can also email their support. Very, very hands-on, and they get back to you in a timely fashion. So first things first, you can go in here to colors, fonts, buttons. When I say the details that are available on here, incredible. I chose a dark black background. I wanted to use the same colors that flow with my cover art in my podcast show, which are blue, white, and black. And I was able to get in. You can choose the colors, as you can see here, the background color. I chose dark mode. You can choose a header color, a text color. You can choose which fonts that you want to utilize. So all these type of fonts. So the type of fonts for your podcast episode titles, the type of fonts for the podcast episode description, the type of fonts for your email form, any type of the header font, body font. You can upload your own font. The button shape, what do you want? Do you want circle? Do you want round? Do you want square? You can do custom CSS. That's some custom programming. I won't get into that because, well, I don't want to confuse you, because it's an extremely simple process without that. If you do know how to do that, or if you've got a web designer on your team that can help with that process, that's another added feature on here. Going back to the list on here, the header, what do you want the header to be able to look like? That's the top of your page. That's this area right here. The cool part about it is you can constantly go and check out what you're editing or preview what you're currently editing before you actually go and save it. There's an announcement banner on there, which is on the top here. Are you ready to go beyond the story? Your logo, your branding, alternate website logo link, your logo height, the navigation bar. What type of navigation bar do you want? Where do you want it? What color do you want it? What text size, etc. Background, the global banner for your website. You can upload your own, your homepage editor. Oops. Which allows you to go in and edit your actual homepage. You can put a video player on here, automatically link a playlist or your YouTube channel, featured episodes. In fact, I haven't even gotten into these options. I just clicked on this and this popped up, as you can see. Very extensive, but still very simple to be able to see and implement if these are relevant to what your needs are. But in an effort to not confuse the ever-living daylights out of everyone, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of each and every feature. I'll let you go and do that. I just want to hit the main parts that I have went and set up when I initially set up Podpage, which are colors, fonts, buttons, header, sidebar, footer, change site template. Go in here. You can choose specific templates that you want. There's all kinds of different ones, whatever ones you think are appealing to you. I chose this one right here with a dark background. There's several that you can go through, as you can see here. So the chances of you not finding, excuse me, this is mine right here. If you can't find something that suits your needs, well, you're probably just very, very picky. So there's a lot of options on here as far as choosing a template, your homepage, which is what I just got done clicking on, your video player, featured episodes, host, recent blog posts, custom content on here, episode list, what it looks like, how you want it to look like, the layout. Do you want it to be a grid? Do you want it to be masonry? Do you want it to be a small list, large list? How many podcast episodes do you want per row? Episode cards, images, view and edit episodes, etc. Tons of different options on here. Let me quickly go through the rest of these because I don't want to be here until next Thursday going through what these options are. I'll allow you to do that again. You can go to the link that I dropped in the comments below. You can also message me. I'll send you a direct link so you can check out Podpage for free. Podpage is always free. You don't need a credit card or anything. You can stay with it for free. You're extremely limited on the free option, but it is free. There's a $9 option and a pro option too. Very economical and well worth it. One of the main things I want to point out here is the guest intake page. Huge. So this is our, look at this, already formatted for you to be able to just grab your guest information. They email you the notification that your guest has registered this form, and then they'll go to the Backend dashboard. You'll be able to see all this information: name, email, bio, title, website, upload their headshot, all of their social links. They can sign a guest release. This is a very standard podcast guest agreement and release. Just important, just to due diligence to say, hey, listen, you're going to be on our podcast. Any of your likeness is going to be shared as part of our content, etc., and have them sign off on it. They submit and register as a guest on here. They'll email you a form, and you can go back into your dashboard. And when you get emailed the notification, it's going to bring you, send you a link to go directly in your dashboard and view all of your guest information. Cool part about all that information is stored in your back end dashboard. So you've got it. There's no emailing back and forth. Can you fill out a form, trying to create a form? Or worse, I mean, the absolute worst is, someone emailing you a Word document that they have to print off and actually fill in the answers with a pen or a pencil, if that's how you roll, which is extremely barbaric. So this is ridiculously frictionless, which is what I like about it. So guest intake form, super cool feature. And you can choose to actually have the scheduling form create a scheduling link. So when they fill out the form, they can actually go and schedule a time to be on here. You can put a confirmation and message in. You can do your own guest release PDF if you choose to. Navigation bar, you can show the guest intake form on the navigation bar. I don't like to do that because I don't want anyone in the world just filling out this form and registering as a guest. I'm extremely thorough with screening out who is a fit for the show and who isn't. So I make sure this page is hidden, and then I just send this URL, which is right here, that I can send to anybody that wants to inquire about being on the show. So that's one of my favorite features on here. There's a blog page. That's huge. You can create blog posts about your episodes, about the topic, about your episodes, about your guest, etc. One of the best things about this is being able to have your podcast website already SEO friendly. That means it's search engine optimized for Google. So if you want to register a domain name like I've done, if you go to beyondthestorypodcast.com, I've gone to my domain URL provider, and they give you specific instructions on the back end here. So if you go to website, you can go edit domain name, and they give you specific instructions. Now I've set up everything correctly on here, and they're going to give you all checks. Another plus, they let you know that everything is set up correctly, but there'll be all the information on you. You register with GoDaddy? Are you with another domain registrar? And they give you strict instructions on exactly what to do. Again, hit up support or your domain registrar's support. It's really easy to do. It's a simple DNS setting update, but you need to know what you're doing. So either have somebody on your team do it, or if you feel like you can do it, make sure you follow all the instructions. Ask your domain registrar, ask Podpage. Really simple to do. There was one minor tweak, like removing one character out of my DNS settings, that kept this from being set up. So as long as I communicated with Podpage and my domain registrar, it was very simple to go and set up. But you don't want to forward your domain name to your podcast website. You want to make sure that your actual domain is set up to be able to go beyondthestorypodcast.com, goes directly to your Podpage website, which is what you see right here. So every time you click there, the domain for the podcast website or the Podpage website is now beyondthestorypodcast.com. I used to have it forwarded. I was doing it all wrong. Podpage brought it to my attention. The reason you want to be able to do this is that people are able to Google your guest name, topics about episodes that you've done, topics about what your show is all about, your name, your show name, etc., and actually find you. So for podcast discovery, this is huge. Remember, marketing a podcast is not the easiest task. So having a thoroughly indexed podcast website is a huge advantage. So another advantage to having a podcast website, podpage.com, makes it easy for you to be able to go and do just that. So let's see here. Add your domain. That's the feature we were just talking about on here. There's podcast player links, social links, redirects, analytics. Super cool. Go in here, check out your analytics. You can put a Google tracking code on here. You can put a Facebook pixel. You can do a Twitter universal tag ID if you have a Twitter ads account set up. Same thing with an LinkedIn Insight tag if you're doing LinkedIn tags. This is huge. For example, post a new episode, run an ad on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's tracking everything accordingly based on the link that you've provided for the LinkedIn ad, same as for Twitter and for Facebook. So you're just these are easy to find. Click here for info. They walk you through that entire process on how to set it up. Monetization, sponsors, they give you a sponsor page. You can put a storefront. You could sell merchandise. You can take donations, a membership, advertising. There's all kinds ads on your website. You can put an AdSense ID on here. They make it so easy. There's so many integrations to simply take what you're going and creating your plugin plan. You can set up these websites literally in minutes. It took me less than a day to get it set up. I think the biggest hang up I had was that I was doing the DNS setup for my domain name wrong, and that took the longest. Once that was done, it was a slam dunk. And you'll continue to rinse and repeat, updating specific bells and whistles. And I'm sure Podpage will be adding additional bells and whistles to their already incredible listening platform. And like I said, they don't pay me $1. I am partnered with them. I am an affiliate of theirs. But if you sign up, you don't pay any more than I would if I just sign up for the first time on here. But as part of being an affiliate and partner with them, I do things like review their platform, use their platform. And when people sign up, they compensate me accordingly for that. Welcome to the world of the internets. So episode signature, categories, guest profiles, guest intake forms, listener tools, email capture. This is huge. This is what I was telling you about with my integrations. They support all mailing list services. You see, MailChimp, Aweber, ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign. That's the one I told you about. Lead capture pop-up, offer incentive. There's all kinds of ways to be able to go in here. You're just going to go to settings on here, and you just check which platform. You go to any of your email providers, Aweber on here, and you're going to use what's called the inline form. All of them have it. You take the code, you copy, paste it, you save. Done like dinner. So let's see what other features on here. Labs. There's all kinds of additional bells and whistles if you're really techie, and being able to figure out, you can become a Podpage affiliate like we are, where you can have when people click on Podpage on the bottom of your page, it automatically brings them to podpage.com, and it tags you as an affiliate. So by the way, if you're watching this right now, you're like, this is super cool, sign me up. I put a link in the comments, but you can also go to beyondthestorypodcast.com. And when you click on Podpage at the bottom of my page, it'll take you right there and you can sign up. And again, it's free to use, free forever. You don't need a credit card or any of that. No bait and switch, all that. So you got your recent activity. This is your main dashboard. How-to videos. Look at this. An entire library of how-to videos of how to use Podpage. Super cool. A wealth of information. I was just testing out the guest form. It gives you recent activity. It says Beavis Smith completed a form. These are all of his links. Beavis Smith. Hey, that guy looks familiar. So does the t-shirt. I'm really, really cool. Did I mention I'm really cool? That's where they would put their bio and all their social links. But this is what you would actually see when you went to check out the people that have filled out your guest intake form. So super cool feature on here. Integrations, blogs, listener tools, episodes. Let's see here, your settings, notification, your your podcast RSS feed, your podcast info. You can add users to go in and help you manage the back end of your podcast and all of the additional bells and whistles and integrations that come along with that. You can go in and you can manage your integrations right here. So you've got Apple Podcasts. I've got connected. I've got Active Campaign already connected because I've got my form. So if I click connect, it's going to bring me right to where I was before a couple minutes ago, where I showed you just copy and paste your inline HTML form from Active Campaign on right in this little box and click save, and you're done. It's really that simple. Now, you do need to make sure that you've set up the form so if you're with MailChimp, you've got to set up that form, go through that process, take the inline form code and post it in there. So that's another completely different training. Apple Podcast Smart Banner, you're able to connect with a podcast, ConvertKit, CookieBot, Constant Contact, MailChimp, LinkedIn, Podchaser, SpeakPipe, Twitter, Supercast, Share This, all kinds of different plugins that you can use that literally you click connect, it walks you through the process, and it's a done deal. Used to be you'd have to go and you have to build a site, you have to know exactly what you're doing. This is all plug and play, and I was, again, thoroughly impressed. I only partner with brands that I believe in, that I can consume, that I can actually use because it's useful and it adds value to my content, to my brand, to my business, to my life, all together. So update podcast info, player links on here. Again, I could go on and on and on and on, but I'm going to go back to, oh, you can still see me here. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back to not sharing the screen. Again, if you want to check out beyondthestorypodcast.com, just go to beyondthestorypodcast.com, obviously. And you want to check out podpages.com. It says podcast website by Podpage on the very bottom. Just click on that, and that's going to bring you right to, well, I'm logged in. Normally would bring you to podpage.com, which is right here. Oops, just kidding. Right here. Okay, so we go to pricing. Here we go. I want to show you this next. So Podpage, like I mentioned, Podpage is free forever. No credit card, no anything. You can also sign up, get all pro features. So you can sign up for the pro pack. If you want to pay annually, it's $15 a month or $9 a month for the basic. Monthly is $20 a month. We're talking, less than $300 a year to have a turnkey solution. Already SEO, Google friendly, SEO indexed, so people can actually find your show and have all the tools and resources like email capture forms and being able to have a guest intake form and all those bells and whistles. You get all that stuff with the pro for $20 a month or for just $12 a month, whatever you want to do. You're going to find, I've found that when I sign up and I get cheap, try to save $8, I'm limited. I have all the features I need except for that one, and for good reason, by design. But you can see here, check for new episodes once a day. So your RSS feed is pinged once a day. With basic, it's every 4 hours, and with pro, it's every hour. I don't know how many episodes you'd be uploading in one day, but as far as it uploading to your podcast website, this is kind of key. You want it, once a day is cool. So if you schedule the new episode to drop tomorrow morning, it's going to ping. The free account will work great. But as you can see, there's a check mark for what's available, what's not available on here. They've spelled it out very, very simple. All plans include search engine optimization, website hosting and backups, huge backup of all of your data for your podcast. Mobile optimized. If you go to beyondthestorypodcast.com, it's already mobile friendly, lightning fast, secure website, accessible for all. Here's some frequently asked questions. Can you use your own domain? Is the free tier really free? Can you cancel anytime? They answer all of those questions on the actual pricing page. They talk about integrations on the homepage too. So if you're going to podpage.com, you can go to beyondthestorypodcast.com. If you're already on there, scroll to the bottom and says podcast website by Podpage. You can click there, brings you right to this page, or go to podpage.com. Use the link in my bio. They give me like $3 if you do it. Anyway, these are all the feed importing tools available. Most podcast hosts are on here. I'm with Simplecast. You got Libsyn, you got Podbean, you got Buzzsprout, Audio Boom, Anchor, Acast, etc. Media players, revenue, analytics, commenting, marketing. Those shows all the integrations on here. It says why Podpage. Gives you some great reasons on here. Easy to use, professional design, significant time saver. People are saying some great things about Podpage in addition to what I'm doing. You can also get a product tour on here as well. So if you have any questions about Podpage, feel free to shoot me a DM. Feel free to comment on this post. I don't know if you're watching it on YouTube or you're watching it on LinkedIn or you're watching it on Facebook, wherever you're watching this infomercial. I'm just kidding. I'm a customer of podpage.com. I'm an affiliate too, but everyone's an affiliate these days. If you're smart, I mean, why not? If you're going to talk about something. So any questions about creating a podcast website for your podcast, just hit me up. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions and share my experience more than I've already done here in this short video about podpage.com. Again, I'll drop the link in the comments here on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And I'll probably send a replay of this video out to the email list. And if you're on it, great. If you're not, go to beyondthestorypodcast.com and you'll be able to receive that email. Any questions about this video or podcasting in general, telling your story, how to create a podcast, how to restart a podcast, how to rebrand a podcast, how to market a podcast? I don't have all of the answers to all of these questions, but I know a little bit about each and every one of those. And I'd be more than happy to share them with you. If you haven't got a chance yet to purchase my most recent book, please do that. I'm really excited about it. It dropped last December, right in the midst of this whole crazy pandemic. You can go to podcastsuck.com. I'll put that in the comments on here too, on YouTube, podcastsuck.com. I'd be really grateful if you bought a copy, but don't just read it. Do what it actually says to do. And if you do that, you're going to have all the tools you need in order to be able to start a podcast on your own. You're able to utilize great tools like podpage.com. Until next time, have a happy Wednesday, and I will talk with you soon. And remember, podcasts suck if you don't have one.